My name is Daniel Scott, and in this short and controversial video, you will discover an amazing solar system designed by one of the early pioneers of the electric car industry that left world-renowned engineers in awe. He managed to implement energy principles that apply to all electric cars into an incredible device capable of compensating the 85% solar energy loss conventional solar panels have. This one-of-a-kind idea changed the course of the solar industry and has helped ever since. Countless people slash their monthly electric bills by more than half. I'm talking about a simple device that can be used by any family around the world and help them power up any kind of household appliances, from lamps and toasters to electricity hogs like refrigerators and AC units. It's called DIY Dish System, and it saved me a ton of money. Not to mention that it's completely weatherproof. You can take it with you when you go camping because you can fold it in minutes, or you can even power up remote cabins so high up in the mountains you'd be crazy to even think about it. Unlike conventional portable generators, there are no fumes, and you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on fuel. It even works during the night or when it's cloudy outside. It's basically a set and forget silent device that's so easy to build it doesn't even require strength or electric school. And just like that, you can say goodbye to high electricity bills. Stick around and you'll discover the secret to becoming energy independent with a small and versatile device that has almost no limit to how you can use it. Now, I'm sure your BS radar is already going like crazy, yet what I'm about to tell you will completely change your perspective on electricity consumption down to your bones. I'm sure you're already intrigued and you want to know all about how this system works. Honestly, it's like nothing you've ever seen, and in a few minutes from now, you'll be outraged you ever paid a single cent to Big Electric. So you absolutely need to watch this short presentation today while it's still up. I don't know how much longer I'll have this free presentation online, so watch this right now while you still can. But before we continue, let me tell you who I am and how it all started. Like I mentioned before, my name's Daniel Scott. I'm 58 years old and I used to live in Malden, a town of some 200 people in Whitman County, Washington. Now, I'm saying I used to live because maybe you've heard on the news about the wildfire that destroyed everything over there, including my home. 2020 was a tough year. Living in Malden, high energy bills were something I'd been dealing with my entire adult life. And while I've certainly never liked having to pay $220 or even more simply for keeping my appliances on, I'd always just accepted that that's the way it goes. In the autumn of 2020, however, all of that changed. Now, the story I'm about to tell is something I don't wish to my worst enemies. In the morning of September 7th, I headed towards work as usual and started my daily routine. Around 11 a.m., as I was working down on a combine harvester that broke down across the creek in the pine fields beyond the field to the west, smoke rippled into the sky. I immediately realized the pine trees were the fuel for a hellish fire. To make things worse, the unusual northerly wind was the engine for it, and the creek was the road of destruction pointing directly at my hometown, Malden. I left work in a rush and drove home to my family to save them and anything we could. By the time I reached home, there was a wall of flames close to my backyard as far as I could see. I tried turning on the sprinklers to buy some time, but they were dead. Later, I realized I had no electricity to power them. Silly me. We stuffed everything we could into the car. Pictures with the kids, some money and some jewelry, a lockbox, my son's school book, blankets. What can you take in a few seconds? But seemingly within minutes, the smoke rounded the corner near the house. The sun turned dark red, and the air became suffocating. Sheriff's deputies, whose flashing lights could barely be seen through the smoke, blasted orders to evacuate through a speaker, and we left, praying to God we find at least part of our home when we returned. Luckily, we were able to go to my parents in Pine City, the next town. A few days later, after the fire went out and authorities allowed us to go back, we went to check the results. I couldn't believe my eyes when all I saw were some piles of ashes and the metal remains of what used to be my garage door. You can't even imagine what I felt. 50 years of priceless memories gone in a few hours, and no way of getting them back. All we had were some pictures. All my life's work turned to ashes. But that was nothing compared to my children's tears down their cheeks, desperately trying to understand what they were witnessing. I've never seen them cry like that. That was the single most devastating moment of my life. I felt like such a failure. I felt powerless because I barely saved the ones I cared for most. And I felt angry. Angry that I'd let my family get in this position in the first place. Angry that I was completely dependent on the government for my family's safety. And angry at myself for being complacent for so long while just taking it as danger kept approaching. I decided right then and there that I would never put my wife and 2 daughters in that situation again. Having nothing to salvage from the ash, we headed to our new temporary home. On the way out of town, I noticed my neighbors were all going through the same thing I was experiencing: desolation and hopelessness. Everybody except Tim Fields. His house was the only one standing, with no burning signs at all, and with his lawn intact. It was like brand new. I stopped the car and knocked on his door. I asked about his wife and daughters, and they were fine. And then I asked him, as I bet dozens of neighbors had done before, how he got so lucky. As he was telling me, I realized luck had nothing to do with it. His so-called luck were the sprinklers. But not only them. I also had sprinklers, and a lot of neighbors had them, but we were all watching our house's ashes blowing in the wind. The fire burnt down the electricity poles all over the city and killed any chance of our water systems to work, but not Tim's. So, baffled, I asked him, how on earth did you manage to keep them running? What he showed me next led me to the most unexpected journey you could ever imagine. He invited me in his garage, where I saw a weird arrangement connected to a complex system that permanently powered his whole house. This is how I managed to keep the sprinklers running, and the reason we're still standing under my roof. I was in awe. Who would have thought such a simple idea like a backup source could get you through such a tough life challenge? It was like a life lesson. You can have all the water in the world, but if you have nothing to pump it with, you're a sitting duck in front of any serious danger. I realized that having electrical power in desperate times is one of the most important aspects any serious prepper should take care of. For emergency calls, you need to have a charged phone. To keep yourself informed, you need a radio. For long-term lights, again, you need electricity. With mixed feelings, I thanked Tim for showing me everything, and I went home. I immediately began researching every single aspect I could find to keep my loved ones safe from everything bad that could happen to them. Because clearly, relying on the electric company wasn't a choice anymore. Not only were they never prepared for such hazards, but they'd been absolutely price gouging me for more than a decade, and probably laughing all the way to the bank as they scooped thousands of hard-earned dollars right out of my pocket. So, I immediately began to look at all the alternatives that would help me and my family get through any kind of catastrophe. And, starting from Tim's idea, clearly I needed to have electricity in case anything happened. First, I considered buying a heavy-duty generator. It would certainly be a good backup power source, and I did research this option pretty intensely. But to get a really good high-quality generator, something that could provide enough energy for an entire home, I was looking at a $1,000 investment. And that wasn't including the cost of gas. And these days, gas prices are still really high, and paying $2.80 a gallon simply didn't make sense. Try powering your home full-time with a generator. You'd need to use about 90 gallons of gas per month, and at a cost of around $250 to do it. Plus, it's not like I wanted to store a 90-gallon bomb around my family and house. So, realizing a generator wasn't a real option, I began looking at wind power. The idea to buy a DIY wind generator kit crossed my mind, but when I saw the costs, I changed my mind. Plus, I did some research on the subject, and I found out that wind generators, or windmills as some people call them, need perfect wind channels, height, and weather to be efficient. That left me with only one option. If I was going to make sure I never let my family down again, and to get us energy independent forever, I was going to have to create my own solution. Something that wouldn't cost much money, but that could provide me the backup I needed, maybe even saving me some extra money, and that I could build immediately without a bunch of complicated parts or technical skills required. So I locked myself in my father's study. I sat down in his favorite reclining chair and put my mind to work. I realized that if I was going to really get the answer I was desperate for, I need to start looking outside the box. A few more days passed and still nothing. So I went back to Tim to find out more. We went into his garage again and Tim started telling me about it. He told me he had built the system in the late 80s, but it still holds up as it did in day one. The system powered the sprinklers, and even though there wasn't a watt of electricity on a mile radius around his house, he managed to keep them running even after coming back a few days later. It was the ultimate backup. No way anything could beat that. He told me he had worked for an electric car company as a pioneer in his field, and he was really passionate about renewable energy. So he was constantly looking for innovative ideas to squeeze more power for the cars to run more miles. And he had the resources at his disposal. Plus, over the years, he'd been studying and tested a lot of renewable energy sources, including some pretty zany things that most people had never even heard of before. For example, he told me how electric eels can be used to produce huge amounts of energy. And maybe that sounds a bit strange, but there are some fish farms that are completely energy independent. However, that clearly wasn't the solution for electric cars, and clearly it wasn't for me either. The investment was too big, and I certainly wasn't going to take care of who knows how many eels all year round. Not to mention the danger I was putting my family in. He told me about other strange ideas to generate power, but it only led me to the conclusion that what he chose was the best option. So after countless such ideas, he came up with what we call today the regenerative braking principle that is still being used in today's electric cars. Let me explain the working principle as I later discovered it. Starting from the brilliant design of the electric car that uses every last source of power and every watt the car can produce while driving down the road, Tim thought to recover some of the lost energy from the braking system when the wheels were spinning while braking. They produce energy, so he thought, why not capture this energy? After implementing this idea into electric cars and seeing how successful it was, Tim took it one step further. Knowing that conventional solar panels waste anywhere between 85 and 95% of the energy they receive from the sun, and surprisingly, nowadays they still do, he thought of applying the same principle on solar panels to make them more efficient. So he designed a system to focus the sun waves in one spot to increase the overall power output, and he built it in his own garage. I can't imagine the look on my face as he was telling me all that. It was brilliant. So, intrigued, I gathered my courage and asked Tim for the ultimate favor. I asked him to help me build a similar system at my father's house. Of course, I shamefully had to mention that I barely had enough money to pay for the basics. And we had two important issues. One, my father's garage wasn't nearly as big as Tim's. And two, Tim hadn't built such a system in decades. As a guy who had studied alternative energy options for a living, Tim had a pretty good idea of the science behind how to build a system again from scratch. But what he didn't know was exactly how to use modern parts and scale down the whole thing. Fortunately, Tim is a pretty good guy and a family man himself, so he understood my situation. And as a former engineer, he was also the kind of person who loves a hard problem to solve. Not to mention, I was up to date with everything new in this field. So we decided to join forces and work on this project. Little by little, Tim explained to me the working principles of the system he had built. As a former scientist, he began by explaining everything from the beginning, thoroughly. After many tests, he got to the conclusion that the most effective way to do this was to use the principle of the satellite dish. That way he could capture the waves more efficiently, even those that would be lost in the process. Not to mention the space he was saving by rearranging the solar panels at a converging angle. So, using Tim's amazing experience and this innovative technology, we started crunching the numbers and brainstorming ideas. We knew that whatever we came up with had to be incredibly cheap to construct. And I was also adamant that our system needs to be very easy to build, so that if, God forbid, something was to happen to me, my wife and kids could make one without any problem whatsoever. The first several prototypes he had in mind were either too expensive or way too complicated. And more than once, I think Tim wanted to wring my neck for being so stubborn about the need for this to be cheap and simple to construct. In the end, after several attempts, we finally came up with a prototype that seemed to be what we were looking for. The design was brilliant. We only used a few solar panels, some wires, and an old car battery. Combined, these materials cost us $200 at Home Depot. However, I'm sure we could have found the parts at a junkyard for free if we weren't in such a rush. But the most important part of it was it was incredibly safe. No fire, no dangerous fumes released, so we had zero worry about creating a dangerous explosive reaction. You simply had to place the components in the correct position. And because of the ingenious way the device was designed, it generated an extraordinary amount of energy, which was then captured and converted into usable electricity at the same time, constantly being powered from the sun. Even more, the system was actually incredibly easy to hook up to any device, even if you're terrible at building stuff and have trouble plugging in a DVD player into your TV. So, after building the device, the next step was to test it out to see if it really worked as well as we thought it would. We connected the car battery to it, and we just couldn't believe our eyes. The system was capturing the beautiful and powerful yellow solar rays, and because of the brilliant design my uncle had come up with, all of that energy was immediately put to use, providing a steady, robust supply of electricity. We hooked it up to a bunch of appliances, and we had the garage lit up to see if it holds. At the same time, the system was capturing the energy of the sun, supplying everything without the help of any other external power. And not only were all the lights on, but we were running the refrigerator and the television with no problem whatsoever. In truth, I almost couldn't believe how simple all of this was. So I folded the whole system in a few seconds, put it in my trunk, and rushed home with it. I parked in my backyard. I quickly unfolded it, connected the cables, and set everything up. Next, I turned on the lights. It ran perfectly. For the rest of the month, we used the system and consumed the same amount of electricity that we'd always did before, but rather than pay $190 for our energy bill like we did in the past, we were running on solar energy. This power meant zero costs. I think we did pretty good. All it had taken me was several hours of my time and about $200 in initial costs, and my family was safe. I loved the fact that I was teaching my daughters such a great lesson about not being fully dependent on the government or any corporations, and I felt so relieved to know that they would always grow up in a warm, safe, and comfortable home. Now, that was about a year ago, and since then, my family and I saved more than I ever thought I would, and the system holds true both in the hottest, muggiest days of the summer, when the thermometer soars past 100, as well as in the coldest winter months, when temperatures can get down into the negative teens. Plus, using the same principle to make a few of Tim's clever tweaks in angle and degrees, I managed to juice more power out of the array. Enough to never worry about being fully dependent on our failing national grid. Well, before long, my friends and family members were begging to know my secret. And when I showed them the simple system Tim and I created, a lot of them had a hard time believing that something so small could be creating that much needed energy. But after I'd given them the simple building instructions and they followed them and created their own power plant in several hours, they became believers fast. Because when the person who used this amazing concept was hooking it up to electrical appliances, the results were the same: an abundance of clean, easy energy that they could use to power almost anything inside their homes. Using electricity without second thinking, running their televisions, their kitchen lights, their garage doors, pretty much anything they could think of. Soon, my friends were telling their friends about my little miniature power plant, until finally the number of phone calls and emails from people asking me to share the blueprints for my home power plant became too overwhelming. Kate, my wife, put her foot down and told me that I had to find a better way to share this one-of-a-kind energy system with the world. So I went to work rewriting out the blueprints and the materials list to show the construction process in simple ways. And then DIY dish system was created. The DIY dish system is a step-by-step guide showing you exactly how to create your own home power plant today, cutting down up to 60% or even more on your electric bill in the next 30 days. As you already know, this system was specifically designed so that anyone with one hand can build it, even if you have difficulty plugging your charger into a cell phone. In fact, you'll be shocked by how few steps there actually are and how short the list of materials you need to build this is. Inside this system, which I'll tell you how you can access in just a second, you'll see exactly what those steps are, along with a full materials list that will help you build the system from start to finish. Even though it wasn't cheap for me to conceive this system, I put a lot of time and money and effort into it, I think it's extremely valuable. Plus, because the files are something you can download to your computer, tablet, or smartphone, you'll be able to follow them anywhere, even if you decide to build your system down in the garage or outside. You'll also be given clear guides and written instructions detailing exactly how to connect your system to any appliance. All of the materials you need to build this will almost cost $200 total. But like I mentioned, you can probably find about 90% of those materials free in your garage or at a junkyard. Additionally, you are also going to be given a full list of tools, and you'll see exactly how to use each one to build the device so that you have an unlimited power supply inside your home. You will never have to pay such high bills to the greedy electric companies again. And on top of that, the DIY dish system is virtually maintenance free. The system will constantly produce the much needed energy, so there's no fire, no burning, no dangerous gases being released, and no intense mechanical processes that can break down. Instead, you simply open up the array and enjoy clean, off-grid energy for the first time in your life. To date, hundreds of thousands of families have used this exact same principle to stop being 100% dependent on the national grid's reliability. So, with all of that being said, I want you to pause and think about this for a second. How good will it feel to never have to take so much hard-earned cash out of your pocket to pay for overpriced electricity? To never have to go to your mailbox and feel a deep pang of anxiety when you see your monthly statement? That you're about to take $160 or more of your hard-earned money and send it off to a company that couldn't care less about your family's safety? How happy are you going to be when you join the ranks of the many other freedom fighters who have already decided they are fed up with being price gouged every time it gets hot or cold outside? What will you do with all that extra money? Will you put it away towards your children's college education? Will you take your family out to a nice dinner once a month at the five-star restaurant that your wife looks at whenever you drive by? Will you use it to help pay off your mortgage faster? In a few years from now, having this system in your home saves you at least $14,000, probably more. So I want you to think about what this kind of savings will mean for you. I mean, of course, there are other options out there besides this. I mean, you could try an off-the-shelf traditional solar panel system to power your home. But the price is a big concern. Can you really afford to pay the $15,000 or so it costs to have a system like this professionally installed? Or $800 for a DIY wind generator that requires a degree in engineering just to set up? And how much wind is directly hitting your home area throughout the year? Another alternative is to buy a generator. But remember, we already crunched the numbers on that. Even at $2.50 per gallon for gas to permanently run your home with a generator, it would cost you around $250 per month. If you really tried to use one as your main power source, you'd be looking to get a few months of usage out of it before it started breaking down. Why would you do that when you could just get the DIY dish system today and take control as soon as tonight? This is my promise to you. If you use the step-by-step blueprints, the illustrated instructions, and the materials cheat sheet that I'm giving you, you will create an ultra-low maintenance, ultra-efficient power system that works just as well as your current power source for your appliances. And given all of that, you're probably wondering what you need to do to get started and what the investment cost will be for this full guide, the blueprints, the materials list, and everything else that's included. Well, first of all, let me just be clear about it. There is no concept like this available anywhere in the world. The DIY dish system is the result of considerable expertise in the energy field and the contributions of a brilliant engineer. And beyond all the technical innovations that have gone into making this simple and easy to use system, you also need to understand that this is about more than just energy. It's about keeping your family safe. The reason I am so passionate about getting the DIY dish system into your hands is that I never want you to go through what I went through. I want to give you the opportunity today to make sure that your home is filled with warmth and love, that you have the extra money in your pocket to give your family everything they need and want, from school clothes to vacations to special dinners at lavish restaurants you and your loved ones deserve. Saving hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars every year is a pretty big deal, especially when you can do it all without having to send who knows how many dollars to the same energy conglomerates who are getting rich off your family's financial struggles. Ultimately, this is about taking action today so that you never have to worry about high electric bills for as long as you live. Because once you've taken several hours to build this system, it won't matter if the grid collapses, electric prices surge, there's a natural gas shortage, or oil prices skyrocket. The dish principle will never get old, generating clean energy, and you will always be prepared in case of blackouts or sudden power outages for as long as you live. A lot of honest and deserving families have already made the investment in the DIY dish system, and the regular retail price is $149. In my opinion, that's an incredibly fair price, especially because you'll see the savings piling up over the years. But while I do think $149 is a complete bargain, I also know just how badly a lot of families are struggling just to stay afloat. I've been there too. I've held my shivering wife and daughters in my arms and felt weak and helpless. I've felt like I had a gun to my head, like I was being forced to choose between constantly living in fear with high electricity bills or putting my family's safety at risk. That's why, for a limited time only, I'm going to cut the investment price for the DIY dish system by more than 75%. Instead of paying the normal retail price of $149, which is what many individuals have already gladly done, you're going to get the entire DIY dish system for just $49.99. Yet, I want you to be sure that this solution is absolutely right for you and your family. That's why I won't even ask you for the $49.99 today. Heck, I won't even ask you to pay that tomorrow. If you act right now, and on this page only, I'll let you have full unrestricted access to my guide, plus unadvertised bonuses for only $1. Read it over tonight or tomorrow morning and make absolutely sure that this solution is for you. If you love what you read, and I know you will, do nothing and you'll be billed for the remaining $49 in 3 days from now. But if you want to take advantage of this rare discount, you must take action right now by clicking the big Buy Now button directly below this video. As soon as you click that button, you'll instantly go to a secure checkout page where you'll complete your order. It takes all of 5 seconds, and once you hit enter, you'll immediately get access to the system. You'll also be able to view the complete guide, the blueprints, the illustrated instructions, and the materials list. And you can do it right from your computer, smartphone, or tablet. You'll also be able to download all of the files, and you can print out as many copies of the blueprints and materials list as you'd like. On top of your instant access, I'm also going to make sure that building the system and running it is one of the easiest, simplest, and most pain-free experiences you'll ever have in your life. That's why when you take advantage of this significant discounted investment price today, you're also going to get unlimited customer support for life. So while the chances that you'll need this support are slim, I want to make sure that if you do, I'm right there to help you. After you've completed your order, you'll be given my personal email address to answer any questions at all. And if there's even one split second where you feel confused or that you don't know what the next step is, or you just want to know if you can substitute one part for another, which a lot of times you can, simply send me an email and I will personally work with you to get your question answered. There is only one thing standing between you and monthly savings on your electric bill, and that's the yellow button you see below right now. But if you're still feeling unsure about the DIY dish system, then there's one more thing you should hear about, and that's my 60-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. Here's how it works. Right now, you just need to say maybe to the DIY dish system. Click the yellow Buy Now button you see right now and claim your instant access to the guide, the blueprints, the materials list, the unlimited lifetime support, and everything else that's included. You'll be shocked by how easy and fun this is to build, and you'll be amazed by just how quickly the DIY dish system cuts your electric bill. But if for any reason you're not blown away by the results, Just send an email for an instant refund. Say you only save $30 a month and you wanted to save more, or you just changed your mind. You'll get an instant refund with no questions asked. Right now, you have the chance to join all of us in the fight to take back our energy freedom. And you have a full 60 days money-back guarantee. But aren't you going to ask yourself why you didn't at least try the DIY dish system? You could get furious every time one of your kids or grandkids forgets to turn off the TV, or end up fighting with your wife because one of you forgot to turn off the lights again. But why on earth would you make that decision? Especially when all you have to do is click the Buy Now button below right now. Do that and you'll have full access to DIY dish system, the step-by-step guide, the illustrated blueprints, and the materials list. You won't have to send so much hard-earned money to Big Electric for as long as you live. You'll receive unlimited lifetime support, and you'll be covered by a full 100% money-back guarantee that's good for 60 days. I think your decision is pretty obvious, but I can't click that yellow button for you. So go ahead and invest in the DIY dish system right now. Join the hundreds of thousands of thrilled families who realized that there is a better, simpler, and cheaper way to power their homes. And I'll look forward to seeing you inside that members-only area in just a few moments from now. Thanks for watching. Still here? No worries. I know that sometimes it can be scary to take that first step, and you probably have a few questions. So, to help you feel fully confident in the investment you're about to make, let me take a minute or two to go ahead and answer some of those most common questions I get asked right now. Number one, how does DIY dish system work? The device harnesses the power of the sun to generate clean green power all year round. It's a powerful parabolic solar array concept that can be used in every home. 2. What's maintenance like? There's little to no maintenance whatsoever, maybe only dusting the panels off every now and then. 3. Is DIY dish system hard to build? Not at all. When Tim was helping me to come up with the designs, I was adamant that this would be incredibly simple to build. There's very little physical labor, so even the elderly or those with a bad back or other ailments should have no problem making it. As a result, there are just a small handful of materials required, and you should allow several hours for construction. If you're still feeling nervous, remember that the instructions are clear as day. Simply follow them and you'll build it. It's really that straightforward. Plus, if you get confused for even a second, don't forget to take advantage of your free lifetime support that's included. Number 4, what's included again? Inside, you'll get my comprehensive guide showing you exactly how to build your own DIY dish system. I made this guide with an over-the-shoulder approach, so it's basically like I'm there in the room building it with you. You'll get blueprints, full-color step-by-step directions, and the full materials list. Plus, your investment today will come with unlimited lifetime support. This means you can email me anytime you have questions, and I'll promptly respond to you. 5. Is there a guarantee? Yes. Once you place your order, you have a full 60 days to check out the guide, blueprints, and instructions. Just follow along. And once you start building your system, we'll be up and running in several hours. If at any point you are unsatisfied or change your mind about this, just send me an email and I will refund your entire investment, no questions asked. 6. I'm ready. How do I get started? Simply click on the Buy Now button you see below. You'll then be taken to my 100% secure checkout page where you'll enter your order information.